bilingual. Later, she went on to study French and Spanish. She graduated from the Parks High School in Brandywine, Maryland, and then from Prince George Community College, and then she went on to the University of Maryland, College Park. And she also continued her studies in computer information systems management at the University of Maryland Global Campus. Deborah started her career in the financial industry and processing credit cards and quite extensive background there. She designed projects for information management systems and for trade and development agencies, library system. She worked as a systems analyst on the Y2K computer bug. Later, she worked as a systems engineer on Y2K computer bug projects. She has years of experience in the field of information technology and communication and government contracts. So her sociability or social engagement certainly includes our beloved national technical associations as a board of directors member, and she served as the Southeast Regional Director and Secretary. She has been a member of the Washington, D.C. chapter. She at St. Augustine's Catholic Elementary School. She served on computer network and labor industry installation as a volunteer team member. And in Washington, D.C., she worked with the annual Women's Conference Committee as a member. She's been a Patriots Technology Training Center youth facilitator. And on Saturday, February the 24th, while attending Black Aviation Day program at the Smithsonian National Air and Spatial Museum, she met Dr. George R. Carruthers. They discussed the problem of mathematical literacy in the United States. George invited her to attend an NTA meeting at Howard University because NTA sponsored a math competition. She joined NTA and became an active member. She started an outreach committee and collected and donated coats and school supplies to area schools in need. On April 1912, George Carruthers married Deborah at the Howard University School of Theology. Upon their marriage, Deborah stopped working and became a full-time caregiver for George until his death on December 26, 2020. Dr. Carruthers, welcome. Mrs. Carruthers, Deborah, welcome. And I hope I did justice to your extensive bio. Thank you. I think now Dr. Dinkins will introduce Dr. Gates.
Good morning again. Richard Gregg, President of the National Technical Association. It is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for the Dr. George R. Carruthers Student Research Symposium. And that speaker is Dr. Sylvester James Gates, the current president of the American Physical Society.
Thank you for that introduction and welcome everyone. I wanted to do two things with my opening comments here. First of all, I want to pay my respect and admiration to the National Technical Leadership Team, as well as Dr. Hattie Carwell. Hattie I've known for over 20 years, and she reached out to me and said, Jim, we're having an annual student conference. What do you think the American Physical Society should do about that? It was a challenge. Anyone who knows Hattie is not surprised by this story. Because challenges is what Hattie does. And so I thought about it. And she said, well, you know, the American Physical Society could be a co-sponsor, something that has never happened. And I spoke with the rest of the leadership at the American Physical Society, and everyone was overwhelmingly enthusiastic about the idea. And so we provided some support, and I'm happy to be here today. Let me point out some things. I'm told I have about 20 minutes. First of all, our two organizations, the American Physical Society and the National Technical Society, began respectively in the years of 1899 and 1926. However, in 1876, before either organization was formed, an African American received a PhD in a technical field. Most people do not know that the first African American to receive the PhD was Edward Alexander Boucher, and he received the PhD in 1876, years before either of these organizations had been formed. So the next time someone asks you about the duration of African American participation in technical fields in the United States of America, you now know who that pioneer was, Edward Alexander Boucher. But today I wanted to pay tribute to another pioneer, George Robert Carruthers. In recent time in our country and the world, we've come to hear about hidden figures, people who toiled in the workshops of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to accomplish almost inconceivable tasks. The recent book and movie with this title, Hidden Figures, tells of Katherine Johnson and her co-workers, proud women of the African diaspora, who toiled to ensure the first American to go into space would also be able to safely come back to Earth. But she also had a hand in getting astronauts to and from the moon. It is here that the invisible hand of Providence connects her story to that of George Carruthers. As noted in the program for the celebration of his life, he was born in 1939. His early childhood years were spent when he was fascinated with physics, science, astronomy, and was encouraged by his father. Sometimes life delivered blows that can be crushing. Some of us encounter these as children. In the case of George, and this is something I share in common with him, we each lost a parent at a very early age. George lost his father at 12, and I lost my mother at 11. So I know something of what George must have struggled with as a child. There are many stories that Albert Einstein, history's most famous scientist, did not do well in mathematics during school. Those stories about Einstein are false. However, for George, such stories are accurate. He received poor grades in mathematics and even physics. However, some of us know about coming up on the rough side of the mountain, and George was one of those. After high school, he went to college, and in the ripeness of time, received his PhD in 1964 from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. A mere 8 years later, humanity was graced with something new from George's hand. In 1972, during the moon landing of Apollo 6, a special camera designed by George was there. Through his craftsmanship, even within their suits, the astronauts were able to set this camera up successfully and operate it. When you go to the beach, sometimes you get a sunburn. This is caused not by the light you can see, but by an invisible form of light, namely infrared radiation. George's camera was designed to detect this invisible form of light. And when the astronauts pointed it towards Earth, it became the first scientific instrument by anyone to take a measurement of Earth from the moon. So in this sense, George, very much like Catherine, was a pioneer. During 1992 to 1994, I was the chairman of the Howard Physics Department. This was my first memory of meeting this quiet NASA master craftsman and gentle giant. It was only then that I learned of his dedication to teaching both students and teachers in the DC public system. After that time, our paths crossed occasionally. One such time was at the headquarters of NASA in a program that my colleague, Ms. Hattie Carwell, spearheaded. And as I am a mathematical theoretical physicist, our professional domains offered pathways for active professional collaboration. I often tell people I'm a simply country theoretical physicist, and you can tell that I'm a fallen mathematician, but there was nothing fallen about George and his skill. The last time I saw George was in 2013 at a meeting in the East Room of the White House. His wife, Deborah, was there, and that was the time that I had the pleasure to first meet Deborah. The ceremony was presided over by President Barack Hussein Obama. And this ceremony was to bestow upon the recipients the highest Medal of Science and Technology that the United States government gives. George was a recipient, and I joined him later. So I thank Ms. Carruthers for the honor of allowing us to name this session after George. I also have to admit, it is my extraordinary pleasure to be able to give this address as I missed a memorial service. And most of my comments that I'm giving you today is what I would have said if I had made that service. Let me end with a quote from 1 Corinthians 2:9. There appears a phrase, what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no human mind has conceived. George's camera, as an instrument of science, took pictures that no eyes had seen before that time. George met a moment of destiny and history as an African-American scientist in an exceedingly pleasant and impressive instance of high-level intellect and craftsmanship. So with this, I say thank you to Deborah, thank you to Hattie, and thank the leadership of the NTA for allowing me to speak to this gathering. And let's have a great conference.
Recording stopped.